be a presenter, which is not the greatest turnout, but we'll give it a few minutes. If you're not a presenter, if I've misremembered who everybody is and are willing to take notes, please volunteer. Yeah, there are two ways of taking that, Spencer. That's a very good point. Anyway, I think let's get started, and I will call for note takers when we get to that slide. Anyway, welcome to the AVTCORE virtual interim. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, as appropriate to your time zone. It's a virtual interim. Probably, I'm certain that everybody here has encountered this interface before, but just as a reminder, you need to enable your audio to be heard. You can also enable your video, like I will do. But that's separate from audio. You need to enable both if you want to be heard. Keep them off unless you're chairing or presenting or talking at the mic, which for some reason they don't say here. The note well applies here, of course, as in all IETF activities. So there are patent rules that you have to comply with. You are being recorded. This is being recorded. You should see the red dot at the top of your screen. There's a privacy statement and computer work respectively, which we have a slide expanding on. No, wait, that's first this slide. Yes, first, you're doing a presentation. You must say if there's IPR associated with their draft. You must disclose IPR your employer controls related to it, and there are sanctions available. And then please remember to treat everybody here with respect and dignity and all these good things. If you feel that these rules are not being followed, please contact the IETF Ombuds team. And then, of course, on February 1st, our co-chair, Bernarda Boba, sadly passed away. We're all very shocked by this. We will remember him very fondly. So a moment of silence for him. About this meeting, if you're here, you have the link, you got to the link. There's notes, should also be in the UI. I am the only chair today. Our AD is working on getting us a second chair, but I don't think that's been confirmed yet. Yes, Hyunsuk? Go ahead.
Hello. I just wondering if we use the mail address for note or we need a new address for.
So it should be linked. If you go to the note-taking tool at the top of your screen, see where it says note-taking tool, next to where it says AVTCORE, next to where it says recording. That is the best link to go for taking notes.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think there's probably, I could probably get a separate link to it if you want to link in a new tab, because for some reason this decides to open inside this tab, which is probably not what you want. But yeah, so does that mean you're willing to take notes, Hyungsik?
Yeah. It may not be perfect, but I will do
No,
my best.
the most important thing is to get, when we say something is an action item that somebody needs to do, that's the most important thing. Other than
Okay.
that,
I will.
but yeah, but just try to get the general gist of what's being said. Thank you. All right, so here's our draft status. We have 3 drafts that are in Auth 48. I have 2 of them are my responsibility, and I had not gotten around to that for a while, but I sent them a bunch of my notes last week. And RTP payload registry, which is closing that registry, which you couldn't figure out where it came from, is in edit stage. So hopefully that should be done pretty soon. We completed working with last call on J2KSCL, and Stefan Wenger has volunteered to be shepherd. So hopefully that should get submitted for IESE review very soon. And we completed working with last call on green metadata, but we do have some discussion of that today. And I also would like more review from people more expert on the RTP side rather than on the content of the data side. I think it got pretty good review from the people who know the content, but not so much people who know the RTP side. So when we get to that, I'll try to get some volunteers to do some review from the RTP side as well. V3C, we need a second working group last call because we had some comments at working group last call. I'm afraid I let that slip because I thought Bernard was handling it, and well, we know what happened there. So I will need to see. We have a number of adopted drafts, some of which are on the discussion today. Yeah, one sec.
Yeah, actually, I have something to mention about the haptic draft. So
okay, sure, go ahead.
Yeah.
Do you want to do that now, or do you want to do that at the end? Is it quick?
That is real quick. So this draft was actually action item for the working law school at the IETF 120. So yeah,
okay, yeah, that's probably another thing that I thought Bernard was taking care of, so I apologize for that. So yeah, if you could put that also on the notes that we should do that on me or whoever my new co-chair is to do a working West call on that. Just to make sure that's in the notes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. HTVC WebRTC, Bernard was working on that. His co-author is trying to figure out whether he can be the primary editor on that or not. If not, we may need a new editor. We will figure out what happens there. RTP over quick. We're just talking about today. Volumetric media region of interest. We had a call for adoption, which was successful. So that should be submitted as a working group last call. So if the authors of that are here, please submit that as a working group draft. Sorry, as a working group draft, and then we will. And I can approve that, and then it'll be on our formal working group documents. And then S-Frame has not had any activity in a while, so I'm going to do a call here. If people are actively interested in it and want to take it over, or find somebody to work on taking it over, because I don't think it's what Peter Thatcher is working on right now. I mean, I know that there is interest in it being in having it sort of in the abstract, but I don't know if anybody is interested in actively working on it. If not, we can have the AD put it in the parked state and reactivate it later desired. But I'll also do a call on the list for that, actually, and I'll make sure that's in the minutes too. That I do a call on the list to see if there's interest in taking over in S-frame, or otherwise we will put it in part state. All right, so our GitHub setup, we are moving things into, we have the ability to move things into GitHub. We've actually already moved the Rock SDP stuff into GitHub because it's in our, the general area of our charter. Even if we don't adopt it, having it in our GitHub is fine. Yeah, so the other ones we probably should move. It's not required, but it's helpful to have them in the GitHub, the AVTCORE GitHub organization. And I finally figured out how to do that easily. Basically, I just add the current owner of the repo as administrator, and then they can add it to the organization. Not as administrator, but I forget the term, but a member of the organization. And then once you are added there, and your working group item, do a pull request, or I can do a pull request against Mark Nottingham's activity repository for that automatically sends out the activity this week email. Okay, so, oh, Harold?
Just checking, are you doing the pull request against Mark's repo?
We should figure out who's doing it. I mean, if I can do it if you'd like, or you can do it, but if I guess we have imported apps capture time, but we haven't done that, so I should. So somebody should do that, and if you want me to do it, I can.
I think you've probably done it before, so.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Okay, yeah, put that as an action item too. Thank you.
Thank you.
That should be easy. Okay, so our agenda today: first RTP over quick, and then the proposal for offer answer for RTP over quick, which obviously it will need, and hopefully Spencer's approach everybody will like. Then apps capture time and temporal spatial resolution, aka green metadata, and then any other business, and wrap up. All right. So I think Matthias is presenting here, and I think there's a way to hand you the slides, but let's see, how do I do that? Do you want to control the slides, or do you want me to drive them?
I don't see any buttons to do it. I can just say next slide.
No, I think I can give it to you. So let me see.
Okay, well, it will be really short anyway. So just
okay.
3 slides.
There you go.
Ah, yeah, I see. All right, so we only have these 4 items this time. We already presented 230, 231 at the last meeting, which at that time it was a pull request for just adding this packet disambiguation to the terminology section. So it just explains that packet without qualifier means quick packet, and the others are explicitly qualified, for example, RTP packets. Then we added a paragraph about RTCP that was brought up by Niels in Dublin, I think. It's just a very short paragraph explaining why we don't use bidirectional streams for RTCP. That didn't change anything. It just adds another explanation for this, why we don't use it for RTCP. I think we had a sentence about why we don't use it for RTP before, and also we say that we generally don't use bidirectional streams. And then 233 added the new implementation from MeetEcho, which we already used in interop tests, but Lorenzo open sourced it shortly before Christmas, I think, and it's now a section in the draft in the interop section. And then we have one open pull request, 234, which just updates the acknowledgement section, so no real changes to the draft there. Interop didn't really change much since last time. I think there was one question mark removed because we now confirmed that really all these 6 test cases work between the BBC implementation and our implementation. Unfortunately, Sam left BBC, so he's not actively working on this at the moment, but we at least confirmed that all these 6 cases work. And on the wiki page, we also list 2 more test cases about multiple streams and RTCP, which I have not implemented yet. He mentioned to me that this should work in his implementation, but I haven't tested this yet. Mostly because my library just puts packets with the correct encapsulation into quick connections, and I would have to add multiple streams and RTCP to the application that I was using for testing. So, and I haven't done that yet. And other than that, this didn't change much since last time. And then, yeah, next steps, continue interop tests. If you have an implementation or if you know about implementations that would like to participate in interop tests, please let us know. Spencer updated the last point here. Yeah, we have the SDP draft, which will be presented next. And other than that, we don't really have anything else to do in the draft. So we would really like to have reviews from the working group and at some point probably also working group last call. I think we asked about this in the past. Now we really don't have anything to do anymore unless people open more issues or something. We will only do interop tests and SDP for now. Yeah, and that's all for today.
All right, sounds good. So yeah, I think definitely some interop would be good here, but also the also I'm not seeing the notes that are taken to a link I have. So can you paste the link you're using in the chat so we can all make sure we're in the same note taking URL? All right.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. So yes. All right. So yeah. All right. So next, I think up is Spencer for SDP for Brock, and I'll give you the slide, Spencer, if you like.
Okay. So it looks like I may be able to control these. Excellent. Cool. So no one has seen this draft before yesterday. My goal is to get the draft in reasonable shape for the working group to adopt. And I really appreciate Victor's help and Sam Hurst's contributions to this draft so far. See, the draft is in the data tracker and it's in the right GitHub. And of course, I'm continuing to work on it. So looking at the editor's copy in the GitHub is a good thing to do. Okay, so there's 3 sections that describe normative behavior. One is definition of new protocol identifiers, one is new attribute names, and one is normative considerations for reusing existing attribute names with ROC. There are 2 non-normative sections. One is implementation topics, which I'll talk about more later, and one is a non-normative quick/RTP/AVPF example. And then, of course, there are security considerations and IANA considerations. The protocol identifiers should not surprise anyone, but I do want to talk about us defining the secure AVP protos, and and the discussion about why that is in the security considerations of the draft, and I've got a slide on that later. So we have 2 new attribute names. One, ROC quick datagrams attribute. And this is part of the quick datagram. This is because quick datagrams aren't part of the core quick protocol. And this is advisory in SDP. Whether you actually get quick datagrams or not is entirely controlled by the quick handshake. Putting this in SDP just tells any middle boxes that are not on the media path that you're going to be using datagrams. Quick datagrams can be at the session or the media level. The other one we've added is ROC flow identifiers. This is required for ROC over quick streams and quick datagrams, and that's actually that's the format in the ROC protocol itself. So ROC flow identifiers are always at the media level. Harold, what you got?
So on the previous slide,
I can do that.
On the previous slide, I had wondered about the use of proto identifiers. In the WebRTC work, we had a real mess with proto identifiers, and finally said that, okay, we'll send a fixed string in this field, and the negotiation with ICE will decide which protocol we actually use. So, do you think we'll do the same thing with when Quick is in the mix, or are you intending to outlaw the mixing of the choice of having both UDP and Quick as options?
So I think we talked about this early on, and like when I say early on, I mean like maybe 3 years ago. And I do want to say you were breaking up a little bit, so I'm guessing at some words. But if I understood what you were asking, this is about, well, what happens, what happens if what happens if you can't do Quick? So how do do you have to fall back at the RTP level, or can something happen in another way that is less disruptive? We had a conversation about failing over to TCP transport as one example. Is that kind of what you were talking about?
Yes, I mean the name in the SDP will be misleading if you negotiate with something else using ICE.
Okay, yeah. I'm not sure if we need. Let me show you when we get to the ICE part, and then tell me what I got wrong, if that's okay. I'll just say I'm not sure if we need to be aware of ICE, because in the SDP, because my understanding of the ICE process is basically that we are going to end up with a particular path, and so we're just handling that like any other path that we know about. We did get it from ICE. Does that make sense? And we could talk about this on the slide where we're actually talking about that.
Okay, let's mark it for further study.
Cool. Harold, could you please keep an eye on the notes and make sure that they represent what you're actually saying? I absolutely want to make sure that I address your questions. Jonathan?
Yeah, back to the next slide. I'm trying to, can you expand a little more? I don't quite understand the motivation for the SDP attribute about datagrams, because, I mean, the whole point of Quick is that media boxes that are on the middle path can't do anything meaningful with the media at all. So what do you see doing something? What boxes do you see doing something with that SDP attribute, and what would they do with it?
So the idea was that someone, a good example is saying, like one of the examples we have gotten from people in the past is I want to do RTCP over datagrams, or I want to do particular video frames over streams and other ones over datagrams, both of which you can do. Okay. you can wait to figure that out until you get back, you finish up with the quick handshake. So that may not be necessary.
Okay, so maybe it sounds like this might be something which, when we have implementations, we can see what people are actually doing with it and if it's needed.
Yeah, and people have said, I want to use datagrams for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, no, I don't question why people want to use datagrams.
Yeah.
I question why you need to have this, pre-advisory thing when it's not the thing that actually is doing the negotiation. And
right, so it would not break my heart to make that go away.
Yeah.
I will say that the person I've talked about that with the most is Sam Hurst, and he's not on the call today.
Okay.
So having that conversation on the mailing list would be brilliant.
All right, sounds good.
Okay. And then so then we said rock flow identifiers, and so cool. So then we get to the part where we're reusing existing SDP attribute names. We reuse setup and connection from, and they were originally defined for TCP as transport, it being that quick is connection oriented also. We're reusing those two attribute names to mean the same thing. We are using fingerprint to allow transport level path changes, which could happen because of quick connection migration or because of a change in NAT bindings or a variety of other reasons. And we're reusing RTCP MUX to let a quick connection carry both RTP and RTCP. So I want to stop there and see if there are questions. Hi, Jonathan.
Yeah, so fingerprint, I think, is not what you want for connection migration, but you do definitely need it because that's what allows the endpoints to do mutual auth of their TLS, because all these are going to be self-signed certificates. I suspect you might want, for connection migration, I suspect what you would want is something that uses that signals the quick connection ID. Rather than, because that's what Quick uses to detect connection migration. I don't know if you need to signal that or if you just remember it from your previous connection, but I think that's not what fingerprint is for. Fingerprint is for mutual auth.
I think that's true. Sorry, I think I'm misstating the theory. What you said is what you understand. What you said is also my understanding.
Okay.
But basically, once you do a transport change, you would need this anyway. Does that make sense?
I mean, the rock connection, the fingerprint being the same doesn't necessarily imply that it's the same transport. That's
right.
Because you could reuse a certificate, because certificates are supposed to be.
Right.
So I think it's more that, I think that should be more based on connection ID, but I don't know if that needs to be in the SDP or just in the quick stack. Thinking about it, it might just need to be in the quick stack. But
yeah.
But yeah, I agree you need fingerprint, but I think that's not why. Let me put it that
way. Okay, and I'm just taking notes. Excellent. So I did have the question about TLS ID. This is something that I don't understand well enough to have an opinion about. I think that this was originally defined for DTLS, and I thought that TLS ID was largely focused on helping with a connectionless transport for DTLS. So since we're connection oriented, I don't think we need this. But I don't know that. So I'm happy to take questions. So I got a queue. Mattis?
Jonathan, if you want to answer to that, then maybe you can go first. I have a different point about RTCP MUX.
Okay.
Yeah, to the TLS ID, it was something about how you could confuse endpoints in SDP of who's talking to whom in ways that honestly I never understood, and it sounded like wasn't a terribly exciting attack, but it was, you know, some people thought it was interesting, but the fact that nobody
I can. This is an editor's note question in the draft, and I am happy to leave that there until someone who understands this.
Yeah, so I suggest talking to whoever wrote the TLS ID draft because they presumably understood the attack. The fact that nobody has bothered to implement it in WebRTC indicates that it's not an attack that anybody thinks is terribly exciting. Yeah, I think that probably talk to the people who wrote the TLS ID draft to figure out what's going on there.
I will be happy to do that. So the other editor's question in this section is, are there other existing attribute names to mention? Jonathan, if I'm understanding your question, is maybe that we need to add a quick connection attribute as well.
I am trying to. I'm not positive. I need to think.
Whether
you actually need it or whether you just do like an ordinary quick and just say you remember the connection ID if you're willing to do connection resumption, and then carry over to the next one, but it doesn't need to be in the signaling, which may be the case.
Yeah, the point where that gets awkward, complicated, is if your middle box is not on path.
Right, like if you're routing based on connection IDs or something. Yeah.
So
that might be a good thing. If you expect middle boxes to do connection ID routing, then you might need it.
Yeah. Excellent. Cool. I want to say on this slide, in sections 5 and 6 in the draft, these are from questions that we've gotten from people while I was working on this draft, and I'm happy to learn more. So I've learned more already just from this discussion, and I appreciate that. Mattis.
About RTCP MUX, it says here that this allows ROC connection to carry both RTP and RTCP. I just want to note that ROC also allows you to send RTP and RTCP over the same flow identifier, and I'm not sure if we need to do anything about it, but we might need another signal for that if you like to make sure that the other end knows to expect both on the same flow ID.
So this is normative. This is a normative section. So I think I might be able to handle that, and I'm thinking off the top of my head, so don't write anything down any place where it matters. But I suspect that having the RTCP MUX at the media level, at the M-line level, we might be able to have it mean what we want it to mean.
Yeah, I think that could work, but we should explicitly note in the SDP document, I think, what it means.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, thanks.
Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, I guess sort of this slide, sort of the previous slide. Do you want to allow not RTCP muxing and putting them over different flow IDs, in which case you would need multiple attributes for the flow IDs for both RTP and RTCP. I don't know if you want to do that, but if you do, you want to support that, you would need to be able to identify both separate flow IDs.
Right.
So maybe
Cool.
maybe that's like an RTCP flow ID attribute if you want to do that, but I don't know if you do.
Excellent. And I'm taking notes as I'm going. So these are questions that we've gotten that I don't think require special consideration for ROC. Okay. These are in a section that is not normative in the draft, and we shall, and we shall see. Bundling considerations. I don't think ROC is special as long as only one path is active. The RFC that describes bundling does talk about multipath considerations. So if multipath quick ever leaves the quick working group, we'll be back here. But right now, I don't right now, the ROC draft itself does not, is not addressing multipath because it's still at ID exists in the working group. So if that changes, if multipath quick pops up, then this and the base ROC spec would be affected. So we know that people are interested in replacing RTCP feedback with quick feedback. That actually is largely a private matter between the quick implementation and the RTP implementation on an endpoint. Where this gets somewhat awkward is if I want to tell the other endpoint that I'm going to be using quick feedback, so you don't have to send me in, the RTCP implement feedback that you would be sending me. Harold, is this on this point?
Yes.
Please go.
I believe that whether or not you send RTCP is an observable event on the media, and therefore it should be standardized how we know whether it's supposed to happen or not. It's
right.
It's not a private matter between the quick and the RTP stack.
Right. So I think I think a good question is standardized when and in what document. I agree that it will be good, and I think this is actually what the document says, that it will be good to be able to do this, but that we need more more implementation experience, and we need way more feedback from the working group about so, am I going to turn off individual feedback? Don't send me this, or am I going to just say, just send me AVP feedback, and so you won't send me anything else? How is that supposed to work? But I don't have enough feedback from the working group yet to be able to do that.
Yeah, so unless I'm forgetting something, I'm pretty sure that all RTP feedback beyond the core 3550 is explicitly negotiated in SDP. So my expectation would be, this might still be an implementation topic. Basically, you don't negotiate the RTCP feedback that you want to get from Quick. But again, I absolutely agree with you. This needs implementation experience.
That would be an excellent. That is an excellent suggestion. was an absolutely excellent suggestion.
For this draft, I'd be happy to say, this document, I would be happy to say, just send RTCP as usual. Later standards might change this.
Yeah.
Let's not burn the bridge until we get to it.
Yeah, Harold, I totally agree. Thank you for that. Cool. I think and just back with just back on one more minor point on this, that you can be using, and actually this pops up in the implications of congestion control topic. You can be using more frequent sender reports and receiver reports for RTP liveness and things like that. But say, and that is a 3550 thing, if I'm remembering right. So I've been wrong before, but that's what I'm remembering. So wanting to suppress the other endpoint, trying to be especially helpful by sending more frequent sender and receiver reports, that may be worth addressing. But I think the suggestion that don't negotiate what you don't want handles everything that's not in 3550.
Yeah, sorry, I'm jumping in again because I put myself in the queue. Okay. Yeah, I think the other thing which probably need to talk about, but it's probably going to be very confusing, is so technically I think the frequency of these feedbacks is controlled, and I don't know how much people actually know this, is controlled by the beeline, which sets the the RTCP fraction and or bandwidth. So you may need to, so though I think that would probably be what controls that. So you may need to give at least some implementation guidance for how you set that. That said, setting that is deeply confusing in a congestion control environment that's figuring out the bandwidth automatically anyway. So,
so the good news, and this is the next bullet, the good news is that between RTP congestion control and quick congestion control and the potential for RTP circuit breakers, this is probably the safest thing you can possibly do on the internet. So, and this gets down to the next point, that basically you could be doing 4 different levels of ping and liveness and consent freshness for your ROC connection, and the draft is just basically pointing that out and encouraging people to make good choices.
So you're still assuming that the quick path is being found by ICE rather than, I know people have proposed various clever ways to avoid using ICE and just use quick sort of natively using various the quick the masked tunnels and whatnot. But I assume you're not, at this point, you're not doing any of that. You're just doing.
Man, you are leading me through my slides. So,
okay, great.
So next question, editor's question: does interaction with UDP Connect belong in the spec? And I think that's highly relevant to the thing you just said. This came in as a question. Basically, do we need to use SDP to do open pinholes in a corporate firewall? And because is that a thing we want to talk about? We can definitely do more. We could definitely do more investigation on that.
Yeah, I think that's something that needs implementation experience to figure out.
Yeah,
Probably
exactly.
not just like, hackathon level, but maybe even like running it in weird networks and see what happens.
Weird network. Would anybody like to volunteer a weird network? Anyway, so this is very helpful feedback for me and for Victor. Thank you all. So that gets me to the non-normative example. I think that this example is in decent shape, and this is explaining what I'm doing at the session description and media description levels. And I'm interested in feedback. You don't have to provide that now, but I'm very interested in feedback as things develop. Security considerations is where we really have the question about what we're doing with secure AVP profiles. The minor question is we have security considerations from about 20 normative references so far, is saying, what the draft says now is the security considerations in our normative references are normative. We could, I can let people look at that and see if we need to provide more detail than that. I'm not sure why that's wrong, but I'm happy to listen. So here's the deal. We're defining secure AVP quick protos to avoid media exposure at RTP middle boxes that might be translating ROC into RTP over some non-secure to go to some non-secure AVP profile going out the other end that's over a transport that's not encrypted or otherwise secure. So this defining the secure AVP profiles for RTP over quick, basically that says that the middle box can do that translation, but if the quick sender doesn't trust the middle box to do that translation onto a secure AVP profile going out the other direction, they can just send secure AVPF. I have a question about whether that's the right thing to do. We could require the middle boxes to do that translation. Is that the right thing to do? We could require ROC endpoints to support S-frame. That was made as a suggestion in the GitHub discussion. Is that the right thing to do? I would love to see a Mike line forming on this one. Harold?
Yeah, I seem to be jumping the line and hope to hear from others. But if you want minimal change to existing security profiles, then secure AVP quick protos. That is, you exchange the keys and you set up decide the keys end to end in the RTP session and encrypt with those, and then put that inside a quick section. That encrypts it again, but what the hell? Encryption cheap. and that's the right thing to do. I'm worried about RTP middle boxes and changing the security posture. I mean, an RTP middle box that is decrypting the quick and then promising to encrypt the content for the next hop. It's a man in the middle. Man in the middle is not good. So being able to avoid that man in the middle is, to me, the right thing to do. I mean, we might also want to do S-frame on top of that, because sometimes we don't trust the man behind the man in the middle, but that's
yes,
orthogonal thing to my mind.
absolutely. So basically, if you look at the security considerations in the current draft, it's almost entirely these questions: is this the right thing to do? There is discussion around that. I'm not going to try to summarize that sitting here at this moment, but we'll see you on the mailing list and in GitHub and in the places that we need to be. Jonathan?
Yeah, so just sort of my broad view of this is that there are certainly occasions when the things you've described here are the right thing to do. There are also occasions when they are unnecessary.
Right.
So I think they are all, I think in security considerations, none of these should be musts, but all of them should be, this is something you should think about doing depending on your topology and architecture. But they, sort of often security considerations are hand wavy because it depends what you're doing, and that's just the way things are. But I don't know the exact wording, but I don't think actually making any of these a must, and certainly not normatively depending on S-frame when we're thinking of parking it would make me very sad. But depends on what happens with S-frame.
Yeah, well, and yeah, so that, and the answer to that. So if I'm understanding correctly, Jonathan, you're also saying it would be great if S-frame moves forward if we're going to recommend it.
Yes, could go. Sort of the counterpositive of that is that if S-frame does not move forward, we should not recommend it because there's nothing to recommend.
This is the best one of these meetings I've ever been at. Thank you all for everything you're saying so far. So the IANA considerations would surprise no one. Most of the details about this are in the body of the document. They could be reasonably moved to the IANA section, consideration section, and then pointed to from the body of the document. Don't care, but I'll do the right thing on that. So here's next steps. And Victor and I have this GitHub repo as a starting point. We think we've addressed previous issues that people have raised in the current editor's version, but I do need to circle back to the issue authors and make sure. The issue authors have not had an opportunity to comment on the current draft in any meaningful way. I tried to do the right thing, but I need to ask. Victor and I are soliciting early reviewers for -01 now. If you're willing to look at the current editor's version and let us know what you think, please raise your hand. It will make everyone's life a lot easier. My goal, and this is our work plan of record, my goal is the draft is ready for call for adoption sometime around IETF 122. this draft, I am sure that this draft is going to need more work by the working group, and that adopting it will help us make sure that that work gets done, because as we said in the previous presentation, AVTCORE has wisely chosen to hold the ROC specification for this specification. So basically, we're gating the ROC specification until there's a way to set up ROC connections without manual configuration. So I think that the working group has said, and I agree, that we've said in the past that the working group needs to work on this, and that does not offend me in any way. So first, can I ask for anyone who's willing to review the editor's version? Harold?
I can't talk this much and refuse to review, right? You were breaking up a tiny bit, but I wrote you down as agreeing, whether that's what you said or not. Cool. Anybody else? And like I say, this is, if you care about RTP over Quick, this is a good thing to do. So ahead.
Yes, thanks for the good work, Spencer. You have been driving it, so thanks for it. But I stood up for another comment because there was some discussion about multipath, and we have this multipath RTP,
Right.
and I just realized like this work is not dead, it's not parked, it's a expired working group adopted item. I think the chair should fix this in a right way so that we don't get.
So you're asking about Quick over multipath?
No. It's MPRTP kind of thing. I think.
Oh, okay, right.
Relationship to this ROC MPRTP and MPQuick right now. So I don't think like it's worth spending time on any of them.
Right, but just to and thank you for the update. And just to be clear, I did check on multipath for Quick last week, and it's still in the ID exist state. So I am keeping. I care about that draft as much as the Quick working group does, but so I'm watching it constantly.
Yeah, I mean, it's not clear to me whether Quick over RTP over multipath Quick would require multipath RTP. I think maybe most of what multipath RTP does is actually would be handled at the Quick layer, but we need to understand that. And certainly, I would not want to depend on multipath RTP for anything, because that is very dead.
Yes, that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And then basically for you, Jonathan, it's just like AVTCORE multipath in the working group is expired working group document. I don't.
Yeah. Certainly multipath Quick. I would not want to
dead, make it dead or parked. It's not
active
anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Just to get that message clear, like we're not.
I'll check the status of that document. I think it's.
Yep.
I mean, we agreed that we weren't going to do anything a number of years ago, but I think I didn't update the data tracker status on that properly.
Yeah, and what Metis and I did on ROC and Jorg, of course, did on ROC, is what I'm doing here, which is basically I'm focusing on stuff that's at least made it as far as approved by the ISG. So I expect that there's more work to do on revisions to this draft if it's published, because Quick is still evolving, and I think that's fine. Does anyone else have comments on this?
I guess you could put me down for a review of the editor's version and please nag me about it.
That is absolutely generous and perfect. Thank you. Well, I'll make sure we stay in touch. Cool. So I have two people that have agreed to be early reviewers. So my work on this planet may be done. Anybody else need to say anything? And if not, I can hand back over to you. Thank you all enormously for your help.
Thank you for doing this work, because as I've mentioned, I think it's important prerequisite. And the other question I had is this something you're thinking of doing? Is this something that you'd be ready to do hackathonishly to actually start implementing and testing this, or is that premature?
So I think the answer is maybe. And the reason I say that is because Sam Hurst is was the first person who was hackathoning with Metis. And he's done an awful lot with the specification, including making suggestions and specific text changes. So I think that we could be close. I think a lot of this depends on interest from Metis and interest from the MeetEcho people who are the other implementers.
Okay.
But could be.
Yeah, I mean, certainly this is something where I would very much want to see both at the. I mean, you got the rocket core is getting some interop, and that's good. And I'd like to see, proof of interop.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
implementation for this too. But,
yeah, no, this very much now that we've actually got, and I hope I can say we've at least got a straw man for people to work on, that we can move this work forward in using the same process that we've used for RTP over Quick.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Cool. Thank you all.
Thank you. And Harold for Hubs Capture time.
Thank you. I'm doing this from a hotel room in Gran Canaria, so if the sound quality is not up to normal, then my apologies. And I hope, Jonathan, can you do the slides? Thank you. So the couple of first slides are from previous presentations. So, I mean, I assume you know this. Point is, we want to know the time at which a frame was captured in a way that we can compare it to the system clock at the receiver. And of course, we don't have global clocks. Dave Mills was trying to get us closer to that, but we all know just how hard it is. And the solution proposed is AVT capture timestamp. Next. So the situation where you need it is the multi-hop case, where you have multiple hops that may introduce delay between the capture system and the display system. I mean, this is for the times when each hop is its own RTP session. So we use the usual RTCP tricks to estimate the round trip time. But we can only do that at one hop at a time. So next. So AVT capture timestamp is a way for each hop to tell the next hop what it thinks that the offset between the timestamp and the clock of its system is. And so if you get correct estimates all the way through, then you can translate the apps capture timestamp into a clock at a time that can be compared to the local clock in a sensible way. Next. So from experimentally deploying this, we know that we don't need to send this on every packet. So send it once in a while. We don't have special considerations for clock drift. We just say that, yeah, once in a while we update. So if clock drifts, we can estimate that too. So it was enough to get synchronization over media or diverse paths working. Next slide. I installed metrics in Chrome that actually trying to look at what comes in those packets. So measured the absolute offset between local clock and the capture timestamp. That's without the correction. The value of the offset field, delta between values recorded, so that we can see if they jitter, and the time until the values show up after the first establishment of the session. Next slide. So we got some numbers. The raw clock difference is around 400 milliseconds. Raw difference in difference jitter, that is the change between two clock differences. That's around 6 milliseconds. So clocks or estimates drift at around 6 milliseconds per second. I hope that's not that.
And I think we just lost Harold. I guess his connection from Gran Canaria is not that good, but Harold, are you still there? Can you reconnect? Oh, you said, sorry, your mic went out. Good. So let's, do you have a way to reconnect? Restarting. Okay, good. We have time, so. All right. I guess, you know, I could play hold music, but I don't think that would be too exciting. I mean, I guess the good news is that people can, we have working that people can connect to the internet from Gran Canaria, but anybody have anything they'd like to, you know, say as a diversion while we wait for Harold to come back? But I think I see Harold here. Harold, are you back?
I think I'm back now.
You're back now. Excellent. Welcome back.
So the typical offset is around 500 milliseconds, which is a very suspicious number. I think it's a bug. But more importantly, perhaps, is that we do get some very, very large offsets. Sometimes clients have clocks that are really out of whack. So it's not that it's detectable that this is a problem. The typical offset jitter is very low, very often zero. So the estimate that the sending system has on the system on the back is relatively stable. I'm just wondering if it's stable around the wrong number. So measuring this gives some idea of what's going on in real conferences in real time. So that's good. Next slide. So the draft itself seems to be stable. We don't have a need to change it at the moment that we know of. So there's a working group decision on whether to keep the URL that Google allocated for the experiment or do a registration with IANA. Outside of the drafts, I wonder if anyone can think of better experimental setups, I mean, I'm certainly going to be looking into that. And we'd like to see some measurements of these metrics and estimates so that don't come from Chrome. Because Chrome is just one particular user of these things. So if someone are willing to join in the effort of figuring out what's going on, that would be wonderful. I think that's my last slide.
Just on the first point, certainly my inclination would be to see if something we're going to propose standard. I would say probably, I mean, I don't know how, it probably wouldn't be too much of a hardship for Chrome to switch to a URN. I imagine it's just here's two synonyms for the same thing. And since Chrome tends to update fast, but my inclination certainly is for anything IETF standardized to use the standard IANA URNs, but
yeah,
I don't care that much.
It's really a bit of a hassle for the changeover, because we will basically have to announce both and then let the responder negotiate down to the new one if it's the new version and so on.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, the main problem being that you
and
have
if we can do that, and if we can do that only once, that would make me happy.
Oh, sure, yeah, absolutely.
So I would like to experiment with this under the old name, and then change to the new name once we think it's ready for publication.
That makes sense. Or if we actually do a break and change to the format, but that doesn't seem so likely.
Yep. So I'm asking for volunteers, just like Spencer. If not, we'll just go on working on it.
Yeah, I would certainly like to have more than one person working on it. Maybe this is something where we'll get better results at the face-to-face meeting rather than interim.
Yep. I'll certainly bring it up again in Bangkok.
Yeah.
Okay, next topic.
All right. Green metadata.
All right, thank you. This is about the RTP control protocol for the temporal spatial resolution. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, this is a glimpse of the draft development. The draft was initially proposed in 2022 and was adopted by the working group in January 2023. Then the first revision to change the name for the RTCP message for temporal spatial resolution instead of green metadata, and the second revision to address some feedbacks received from the group. And the third and fourth revision just has no changes, just to prevent the expiration. And the WGLC was done between 2024 October 7th to 22. And yeah, that's the timeline. Next slide, please. During the last call, we received 3 responses, all expressing support. And also we received comments from Xavier. And there's 3 major comments. First is the reference to green metadata spec has to be corrected. So originally in the draft, it is referred to the cross 5.3. And for the updated spec, it becomes 6.3. So that is something you need to correct. Second is the rewarding. Xavier suggests to use invalid instead of illegal. So I like to get groups feedback, because I checked a number of spec. Illegal and invalid are both used, so which one is more appropriate?
I mean, it is a matter of style, but generally I prefer invalid, because nobody's going to arrest you if you do it, so it won't work.
Okay, sounds good. So I will correct that. And finally, it's good point that Xavier pointed out that value 11 for the FMT was used. Actually, is reserved for the RTP congestion control feedback. So we have to change that. And my question is the procedure, like when to register IANA, because this one was not adopted. So usually we should register IANA after adoption, or like what stage should we do that? Any comment?
I think generally, I think what IANA wants is you can do. I mean, the normal registration is, I think, on publication, but you can do. You're allowed to do early registration once you're sure that the format won't change. So we certainly could do that, and we could talk to IANA about early registration, or if we're just. But I think if we're ready for, or if we're almost ready for publication, it might just be the normal procedure would also be fine. But yeah, I think definitely making sure these don't, changing these numbers so they don't conflict is very important.
So I will correct the updated number, but probably register when it's get adopted. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Great.
Yeah. Next slide, please.
I actually had a comment on the previous slide.
Mm-hmm.
It is common to tell to have in the draft name a value that is used for testing, but that the official value would be assigned by IANA. And that way, when somebody registers format equals 12 on top of you, you won't have to change it to 13.
Okay.
That's a common practice. Just putting it in as a to be assigned by a final value to be assigned by IANA.
Okay, great. Good to know that. Thank you. Yeah. Next, so assume the various comments are all addressed in version 5, like next revision. Any further changes required to the draft? So what's main question is what's the next step? I know in the slides Johnson mentioned maybe it's desirable to get more experts from RTP side to address.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I'd like to basically. I mean, I could certainly do a review personally, but I'd like to get some other people who have more expertise on the RTP side to review. The other thing I was going to ask about is what's the implementation status? Do we have implementations of this, and do they interoperate?
Yeah, I think we have some internal implementations going on, but I think another point is that the temporal and the spatial resolution change has been widely deployed, even not with this RTCP signaling. So this is just to enhance the interoperability among devices. So that's definitely desirable. And also this supported like green metadata specs that are published by MPEG. This one, yeah, that part of the green metadata actually it is not doable without the protocol available. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other thing we should probably. I think Stefan Wenger, I think, has also volunteered as the MPEG liaison to provide a copy of the spec for anybody who wants to do a review. So please contact Stefan if you're reviewing this.
Another concern is that since the draft has been published like for more than half a year, so without any changes, but so far I didn't hear any like technical concerns to address.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I also apologize. I think this is another area where I think I was sort of expecting Bernard would take care of things, and well, obviously that didn't happen. So I apologize, and I will try to get more actively working on this myself, and then if and when we get another co-chair, we can coordinate that there.
Okay, appreciate that.
Okay. Harold?
So usually problems with this kind of stuff show up when we implement the precise thing that's documented. So do we have implementations of the actual signaling using RTP and having devices or transports react to that signal?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Have you implemented the RTCP messages, and do you have devices that react correctly to those RTCP messages?
Yeah, I think so far all the temporal and the spatial resolution changes has done in some other ways, even the proprietary way, but not through the RTCP way. So yeah, we're testing that, and there's some published paper address that, like how much power savings using this interactive signaling. Yeah, but not on the commercial product yet, because this draft is not like public adopted yet.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think certainly we don't need obviously this in commercial deployments before it's published, but we'd like to at least have like, prototypes of the actual spec as written to confirm that, there's nothing that we've basically, when you implement a spec, you often find the things, that you didn't occur to you just reading it. So I'd like to know that we have, ideally 2 interoperating ones, but at least one people who's implemented the spec as written and have it working and does what they expect it to do. And I don't know if you want to, potentially do a, if you have, it's the sort of thing that maybe doing a hackathon in Bangkok would be, a, potential opportunity for that, just to get together and test. But I don't know if you're going to be there in person or if you have the ability to do that. All right, yeah. So like I said, I would like some more. I will certainly do a review. I'd like to get some other RTP experts to do a review, and then we might need to do a second working class call depending on how extensive any changes are, or potentially we could try to start asking for publication.
All right, thank you.
All right, so that's all that we have had today. Is there any other business anybody would like to talk about? Otherwise, we should be able to finish up early. All right, I will try to, so can we go through, do we know what all the action items we had written down? Oh yes, we wanted to do a working class call on the haptics. Sorry, go ahead, Pierre.
Yeah, just very quickly, sorry, I was triple muted. On the J2K SCL Shepherd's report, I mean, due to the unforeseen circumstances, I guess that's been delayed a little bit, but I'm hoping to work with the new designated Shepherd and make progress hopefully in the next few weeks, unless anybody sees any reason not to.
No, generally at this point, it's just the authors and the Shepherd need to work on it.
Right.
And, yeah, and so yeah, we should get that.
Yeah, and with Bernard, I think we had crossed all the T's and dot all the I's, and so hopefully it's only administrative work left. So
sounds good.
Okay, thanks.
Zad?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously I joined later. I don't know, like, if you have talked about Bernard, but I mean, it has been a great loss for us and a community. And he has been kind of like, I've been talking with him in a lot of things, and he was kind of like the early IETFers I looked upon and get advice and all these things. So I'm very sorry and to hear that news, and I'll miss him, or we all will miss him. Having said that, we must continue doing our work. That means, like, I need to find a new chair to support you, Jonathan. I've been talking with people who have to make a decision. So here in this call, and anybody else, that would be a good chair. Just suggest me some names. I would like to get a preference for a new chair, like who haven't really chaired any IETF, but if not, then I think we need to find somebody who can complement you, Jonathan. So please feel free to come up with your suggestions to me, and I'll make some decision in coming weeks.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, that's probably everything. As mentioned, I need to do haptic stuff, and I will also review for any other action items. I think I need to make sure that the notification emails are going out for the apps capture time draft now that it's in our repo. But I will also check the minutes and the recording to see if there's any other action items I have for me and try to get those done. And thank you all very much. And we'll see you on the list or hopefully in makeup.
See you all. Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, folks. See you there.
Bye. Mm.
Good job, Jonathan.